Nobody said anything about wearing pants. Okay, do we still have what it takes?
I think so.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Remodeled Love podcast 8 months later.
Here we are.
We've missed you all very much. This episode is dedicated to our friend Bree.
All right, Bree, what's up?
I don't know why you're giving, cheesy morning show host. All right, Bree, what's up?
Looks like traffic's clear on the I-5. And now for your morning news roundup.
Oh my god. Bree slid into the DMs and she was like, "Where the fuck is your podcast?" And I was like, "Look, there's just too much going on." But I figured it was a sign because I think the podcast is my first love over the Instagram, over the TikTok. And so I really do want to focus on bringing it back, including the exclusive episodes. So, September, the end of September, marks 4 years of us having a Patreon.
What?
So yeah, isn't that crazy? So there's 4 years of exclusive content on our Patreon. And I want to get back to, in a perfect world, we would do 2 main feed free podcast episodes a month and 2 exclusive. But yeah, there is 4 years worth of shit on our Patreon. So if you want to support the podcast, if you want to support the Daylovers, head to patreon.com/remodeledlove. There's been a lot of branding change-ups over the last 4 years. I remember when we started, it was patreon.com/homesliceproductions. It's now /remodeledlove. Oh my god, we didn't do intros. Wow, I am off my game. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Remodeled Love podcast. I'm your polyamorous mama, Jessica Daylover. And with me, as always, is the SCOBY to my T, Datty Daylover.
Bring in the booch 24/7.
Nice. Joe makes an incredible homemade kombucha, and he's brought it back.
Yeah, it's essential to my health and well-being, and I feel like it's a good way to connect with others.
Yeah. So this episode, dedicated to Bree, brought to you by Bike Joe Booch.
Which I know you love.
Yes, I do love Bike Joe Booch.
I also meant Bree.
Oh. Oh yeah, Bree does love your booch.
That's correct.
Wink. We're broadcasting from Dream Life Studio, and I have no interior design talent at all, but I feel like I've done a really good job with this studio.
It looks great. It feels very millennial home office.
Yeah, it's really cute. So if you're on Spotify, you could be watching there. We also will have it up on our YouTube. It would be a dream someday to monetize our YouTube. Please go subscribe there as well. All of the links will be in the bio. So we are starting with what's new with Remodeled Love. And I'm going to keep it short because I know people are really excited for the personal life updates because I'm titling this episode, Joe Has a Boyfriend. So I feel like I can't bury the lead, So let's fly through really quick what's new with Remodeled Love. Tons of shit. We've really upped our course library. So if you go to remodeledlove.com and take a look at our courses, Shanae and I have a course called You Want to Be Polyamorous But, which we've talked about on the podcast before, but that is available for purchase. We also, our most popular course of all time is a panel discussion I created. Remodeled Love presents Mistakes Were Made, a 3-hour webinar navigating the pitfalls of polyamory with honesty, humor, and hard-won insight. This was a live event with the one and only Avita Sawyers, Shanae Jackson Kendall, and Genevieve King of Chill Polyamory. I'm telling you, it was the hard hitters. This thing went for 3 hours. We included a bonus Q&A in the recording. It is really good. I feel like, first of all, I love normalizing the making of mistakes. I think it's really good shadow work that for me to do personally as an educator and for my fellow educators to do. It's also powerful for other people to hear us talking about our mistakes. I think it takes us off of any pedestal we might have been on. But Shanae's tagline for the course was, "We fucked up so you don't have to." So in theory, you could hear us talking about the mistakes that we made in our polyamorous journey and potentially sidestep those yourself. It's really good. It's really, really good. That's available for purchase at remodeledlove.com. And now I have panel 2 coming up. This is Mistakes Were Made, the Relationship Anarchy edition.
Ooh.
I actually haven't announced yet. I'm announcing today. This is featuring Che Luna, Annie Undone,
Love.
Laura Boyle of
Hell yeah.
Ready for Polyamory, and Gabrielle Smith of By Gabrielle Smith.
Wow. The dynamics are just crazy that you've put together for this series.
Thank you. It's really good. I think it hit people. The reviews we've gotten on the first one are really good. I think I'll keep it going. After the Relationship Anarchy edition, I want to do the solo polyamory edition. So yeah, we'll just keep that going. And even the first panel, we had tons of mistakes that we had to weed down to 2 each. So we could just do another one. We could keep this going, keep it a series. I'm really excited about that. Yeah, so we have lots of shit coming up. And you can, of course, if you want to see clips of those things, like previews, you're not sure you want to purchase, you can check out clips on our Instagram and our TikTok. And I will also put some up on the sales page because that makes sense. Good idea, Jess. Thank you, Jess. Okay, moving on. Personal life. Well, let's start with the fact that my 40th birthday is coming up in November.
How do you feel about this?
Other than, okay, so several people have asked me this. Like, I am into aging. I think it's cool. I think it's sexy. I truly believe that my healthiest, sluttiest years are ahead of me, and I'm clinging to that. And that is hugely inspired by Dr. M's mom. If you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to the episode with Dr. M's parents who discovered swinging after 41 years of monogamous marriage. And now that hoe is out just getting spit roasted every weekend. And she is just like thriving in her late 60s, saying it's the best time of her whole life and she's happier than she's ever been. So I'm like clinging to that. So I think aging is cool. I think 40 just as a number sounds sexy. The only negative feelings I have about it are I don't feel good. And it's scary to me that like I feel 80 at 40. Like that's not good. And so I really am clinging to this, like, I hope there's a miracle for my health as far as the autoimmune stuff goes and my hormones being super out of whack. And, you know, I know it's all gut health stuff and probably long COVID mixed with the trauma of my postpartum journey. But I have a meeting with a functional medicine doctor in a couple weeks. No, I'm not looking for feedback on that. That was a whole thing. I was like, I might have to stop talking about my journey online because people got real up in arms about functional medicine versus whatever, and is it a scam and blah, blah, blah. And like, look, I just need to feel better. So I am pursuing that path. So like, I have to believe there's a miracle in my health and that like, I feel really, really bad now. And I can't imagine that getting worse as I age as it's supposed to. So I'm really hoping I can reverse some of that. And then the other negative feeling I have about aging is feeling just like professionally and financially, I'm not where I want it to be at 40. So, it's like sometimes I feel more embarrassed, but more just like, you know, freaked out. Like we have, you know, several friends that own multiple properties at this point, and they have like regular ass jobs. You know, it's just what they focused on and they prioritized through their 20s and 30s. And here we are still renting and living kind of paycheck to paycheck, to be honest.
Sure. You know, we couldn't perceive at the time that the entire middle class would disappear between the time they bought their homes and now.
Yeah, so just feeling like a lot of my friends have really prioritized saving and investing and purchasing property, and those are not things that we have done, and we had kids on top of that. And so we continue to be time rich, which I think is really showing up in how fucking awesome our kids are. And so we have invested things. We've just invested in time. And I think in my 30s, I was like, whatever, I've got plenty of time. And then all of a sudden, clock ticks 40 and you're like, oh, maybe we might want to figure out what a mortgage-backed security is.
Right.
Yeah, so those are the only negative feelings I have about turning 40. But anyway, I decided it's been 3 years since my birthday orgy. And I realized I never made a podcast episode about that, which was such a fail on my part. But again, anything pre-fixing my youngest airway, nothing matters. We were in pure survival. But the first birthday orgy was really amazing. And then I was so sick the next 2 birthdays, like autoimmune wise, that I was like, I can't even, I don't even want anybody to touch me, let alone do I have the energy to throw myself another orgy. And then I questioned, because our life has changed so much, and a lot of the friends that came to that orgy, like several of them are in monogamous relationships now. Several have moved away. So I'm like, do I even have enough slutty friends? But then I started thinking about it, and I was like, well, if I throw myself a 40th birthday orgy, I have to call it a 4G, obviously. And the jester in me that's always committed to the bit, like, well, now I have to do it just because 4G is so funny. And come celebrate just as big for, like, it's, the copy's too good.
Yeah, no, you're only going to get this opportunity once. You can't pass it up.
You can't pass it up. So the part of me that's committed to the bit is throwing the 4G. And then I was talking to a friend, and I was like, I want to do it, but I just can't. My resistance in lack of spoons combined with like ADHD paralysis will make it a failure. And he was like, why don't you ask for help? And I was like, oh yeah. And so I was like, okay, well, my dream team would be if Sky of Femme Meow, who is a very dear friend of mine, she came and visited us back in the spring and was obsessed with our kids. And of course, our kids were obsessed with her. And we love her so much. My dream team would be Sky as my emotional support slut, Allie Bravo, who lives nearby, who is like so similar to me, like we're giving very soul sisters, but she's like the queen of throwing sex parties. That's what she did professionally for a very long time. I would want her to come out and host, because my hosting really stood in the way of the experience I had at my last birthday orgy, because like when you're the host, it's like, oh, that person has a weird look on their face. Are they having fun? Are they hungry? Do they need something? And then you're so worried about the experience everyone else is having. Oh, this person traveled. This person flew in for the 4G. I hope that they have a good time. It's just too much pressure. And then I kind of use it. It's like the perfect thing that the part of me that wants to like retreat during orgies and like not push myself in a healthy way to like try some things. Like it's the perfect excuse I need to not do that. So I'm like, I would need Allie to host and create the container. And then I would need a service bottom to make sure that like literally everyone's needs are met, so that I don't have to worry about the weird look on that person's face, because I know Alex, my service bottom, is on it. And so I actually have 2 service bottoms coming for this 4G. And yeah, suddenly, like last time I wanted to be in full control of the invite list. And this time I released control a little bit, and I let Allie, who knows a lot of amazing sluts. Let's just say it. She knows a lot of amazing sluts. And I was like, Allie, can you invite people? And my only rule, because I was like, I need you to use your psychic screen and like test the energy. And if the energy is a good match on your psychic screen, then invite them. And then very quickly we had like too many people. So I think it will naturally taper off, how it does as you get closer. Mm-hmm. So it's feeling a little less demisexual to me, for me personally, because I don't have a personal connection to every person coming like I did at the last one. But I actually think that's really exciting. And Allie will create such an amazing container, and we'll be using the tools I used last time to create chemistry between people ahead of time, through the group chat. So, which you've been MIA from, by the way. So yeah, the 4G is coming up in November, and yeah.
A star-studded cast.
Truly. Yeah, including this girl that I've been dating-ish. If you are on our Patreon, so I'm connected with this incredible woman on Hinge randomly. I have not been on the apps for over a year. I randomly got back on. Fuck me for choosing Hinge, because it's the worst. And I didn't even have my alerts on, but I happened to have my phone on. I had only been on for 2 weeks. And I got an amazing first message from this girl who's gorgeous, by the way, whose profile said former Mormon turned queer leftist witch. And I was like, that's for me. And we had like just fire witty banter right off the bat. We were feeling it. The vibes were vibing. Then all of a sudden she said something about, oh, when I visit Tahoe. And I was like, wait, you're not local? Because y'all know I cannot do long distance. And I make sure my apps are not set for more than like 50 miles. And I was like, wait, how did this happen? And at that point I was already invested, and then found out we weren't local. And then she said, no, like, I am on my way to Tahoe tomorrow to see Hosier. And my date that I was supposed to have, we broke up. And so I was trying to manifest the perfect date. And so I set my app to Tahoe to see if I could manifest somebody. Do you want to go see Hosier with me? So our first date, 2 Sagittarius lesbians going to Tahoe to see Hosier. Completely spiritual experience.
Oh gosh, I bet. What a performer. I can only imagine. I know that Laura, my side witch in LA, is a huge fan of Hosier.
Absolutely. I have never seen a live performance like his. At the end, you'll appreciate this. He thanked and held for applause for each individual person, every person in his crew, from all the members on stage, which there was like 9 people on stage, to merch person, to sound person, to light person, to production assistant. And he held for applause for each one. I cried.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I have chills even just talking about it. And then, of course, he spoke up for Palestine, which was fucking dope. And, Irish, the connection there. So they know.
He's got revolution in his blood.
Yeah. Oh, and then he sang that revolution song. Or Nina cried power. You know that song? Mm-hmm. I lost it witnessing that song live. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, we immediately from dinner were so hooked into each other that we almost missed going to the concert. We were like, we gotta go! Because we just immediately we are just, that sapphic connection, really good. And then the story turned into a very sitcom-y tale as old as time of 2 femmes being really fucking awkward with each other at the end of the night, because it's just 2 femmes being super respectful to each other. And so nobody makes a move. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, you probably don't experience that. I mean, you're kind of more of like a subby guy, so maybe you do, but like sometimes like 2 femmes are together, like neither pursues.
Yeah. I can be the one to make the first move, but it also has to be like abundantly clear.
Yeah.
That it's there. And sometimes and this is very stereotypical of like cis men too, we can be kind of like blind to if something is actually there or not.
No, maybe it's blind, and some cis men just don't care. They do it anyway because they want to, and they're blind to the fact that it's not there. But I think that's more of an autistic thing.
No, I more meant the inverse, where it's obviously there.
No, and I'm saying that's more of an autistic thing than a cis man thing.
Got it.
Because most cis men are just like, well, I don't know, I went in for the kiss because I wanted to.
Yeah, I would only go in for the first kiss if I was very certain that the energy was there. Yeah,
and I think several people have told me that when I talk about being a demisexual early on in a connection, especially the good ones, they hear that. They hear me say I'm a demisexual, and they really try to respect that. So then I'm thinking, oh, well, they're not making any moves, they're not feeling it. Mm-hmm. And so the story is just us thinking each other aren't feeling it. Only for me, it gets really pathetic what I ended up doing. Waiting in the parking lot. We were Marco Poloing each other from the parking lot for 45 minutes after we said goodbye from her hotel room.
Yay.
Yeah, well, and so anyway, I had to tell the story, but I knew it was going to be funnier in detail if I told it to Sky and Allie. So that's on our Patreon, is this hour-long retelling of this date, and Sky and Allie basically making fun of me the whole time. But also, it's very relatable if you're a lesbian femme for femme. Yeah, so she's coming to the 4G.
Hell yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and I'll actually be, and so we're 2 Sagittariuses, and so our first date was her driving a very long way to Tahoe to see Hosier and taking me, having never met me. And then our second date is I'll actually be speaking at Polytopia September 19th, 20th, and 21st in Portland, Oregon. And I invited her to come up. So our second date is her coming up to Oregon for that.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, and that's really exciting because I'll be meeting Avita Sawyers for the first time in person.
Jealous.
Yeah, no, but we've both said like we're gonna cry. We're gonna totally lose it. We
Aw.
talk we talk every day, pretty much.
I didn't know that.
I know. It's a development because we both realized we were on Marco Polo, so now we just like talk all day. And then I haven't seen Shanae since Southwest Love Fest in 2023, so I get to see Shanae in person again. And then Avita's boo, who I met with Shanae in Southwest Love Fest, and then my assistant Holly and our best friend Alex, who was all part of that Southwest Love Fest crew. Everyone's going to Portland, so we're all going to be hanging out, and it's going to be fucking amazing.
Wow, I'm so jealous. That sounds amazing.
I know, it really is. And so, yeah, our third date will be the 4G.
I love this dynamic for you. It's not traditional. It's defying all convention.
Yeah.
And I think that though you're very averse to long distance or regional, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a place for it, and you just have to figure out how that slots in.
No, I found it. I get it now, especially because she's super chill with the lack of talking.
Yeah, that's what I struggle with in relationships in general, not just long distance, but
yeah, no, like she is like the definition of Comet. Like we fit the Comet bill really well. It works for both of us. And I'm like, oh, I get it now. So I think for long distance to work for me, it has to be Comet. And the Cometness has to work for both people. I don't think I could do serious long distance.
We say that now. Cut to 3 years later on the Remodeled Love podcast.
I know.
So
famous last words. Okay, so it's probably 74 hours into this episode, and we haven't gotten to Joe has a boyfriend. All right, so update us.
Dun, dun.
I mean, you're definitely living your sluttiest life.
It's great. It's great. I've realized a lot of things about myself through this new dynamic, which is about 5 months old now. And this person is a trans non-binary, but like to be they, them, but like to be perceived and to experience life as a male. And they're into a lot of like stereotypically like male bro-y things like camping, going outside. They even
wait, I'm sorry. I have to read you for saying camping and going outside are bro-y things.
Sure. I mean, well,
we live in one of the most outdoorsy places in the world. I can't get on an app without man or woman being I'm into camping and mountain biking and hiking and being outside.
Well, this is actually really good. So there's like in a Mountain West sort of culture or environment such as we have here, there's this sort of like ongoing joke that I often kind of tap into when I'm going on dates, because people often lead with that on their profiles. I explicitly do not. I do not mention anything about being an outdoors person. None of that, like the mountains are calling me, I must go kind of stuff.
Not the John Muir quote.
No. I don't have it on a bumper sticker or on a t-shirt.
We don't
of
own
any
a
kind.
Subaru.
I am one of those people, though, that the mountains are calling me, I must go, but I don't talk about it on my dating app profile. And it's something that locals here like to joke about. It's like, okay, so when you say go for a hike, are we talking like a 5-mile like uphill situation, or are we talking about a walk through the forest? You know what I mean? And there's that kind of dichotomy. So there's like people who are into camping in the outdoors, and then there's sort of like this other level of like people, okay,
but yes, that's not a gendered thing. I just want to declare that before we get hate mail.
Sure, it's not a gendered. That's why I said stereotypical. Emphasis on stereotypical.
Okay.
I had said that.
Okay, let's play back the tape. Okay, he did.
Right, I did. Anyways, where did I leave off?
That you have a boyfriend. You've been dating for 5 months. They are a non-binary trans person who likes to be perceived more masculine, and that you guys think of yourselves as boyfriend.
Yes, we are boyfriend and boyfriend.
You're so cute.
Yeah. And it's cool to play into that, realizing how gender euphoric it can be.
Yeah.
For them, which they tell me a lot about the specific things that help them feel more that way. And so that's really fun and exciting to help create that for someone.
Oh, cute. And they're married with kids.
Yes.
Have you met their partner?
One time, yeah. And similar to us, as we have learned more in this past year, I would say, are taking a slower on ramp with kitchen table polyamory type stuff and are wanting to make sure that any kind of relationship is established before even meeting family, that kind of a thing. And so that's been really good too.
Do you want to go in that direction with this person, or do you like it being like more parallel?
I could see it. I'm definitely interested in them hanging out and, vice versa. I would love some kitchen table stuff. I think it could kind of go either way. We'll just have to see. But we're both open to it.
Nice. So 5 months, boyfriends, cute.
Yes. 5 months, boyfriends, cute. And we're both just like really gigantic sluts.
That's cool. Once a week, Joe asks me to clear the house for 2 hours. So I haven't met this person, but I clear the house for Joe to have a little house time for 2 hours, which, you know, I was making a joke to the friend the other day because I had a date with our friend Mojo, and they were like, "Oh, am I meeting you at the house?" And I was like, "No, Joe has a sex date here, so we have to clear out." And they were like, "Oh, that's so nice, so nice of you to do that." And I was like, "Yeah, you think you know, but you have no idea. This is the diary of nested polyamorous parents." That's an MTV diary. I knew you wouldn't get the reference. Somebody listening just got the MTV Diaries reference. That's the intro to an old MTV reality show.
Oh.
You think you know, but you have no idea. This is the diary of nested polyamorous parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and you know that I would and have done the same for you.
Yeah, totally.
Historically. Yeah, this dynamic's been a good avenue for me to explore my queer side and sort of my baby bi identity, what those parameters look like.
That must be so interesting because it's like when we first started making content, we've been all about the privilege identity check since day one, and you've always identified as cis and het. And you're still cis, but you're a he they, and definitely not het anymore. And how does that feel?
Great. Yeah, it's really liberating, and I think it's helped me just accept myself more and see more of the range of other humans rather than trying to stereotypically fit into what we think we should be.
Do you have any advice for particularly hetero flexible just any cis hetero men listening to this who are curious how you even began dipping a toe into trying to see how concrete your heterosexuality was?
In my case, I think it was easy because once I started having amorous thoughts about people with penises, let's say, then it could translate and make sense in my mind. Granted, I'm still very much chicken shit when it comes to talking to cis men on dating apps.
I mean, you're pansexual, but you don't like cis men.
I am seeing now one of the things that has been revealed in my queer journey thus far is I understand a lot more. I understand with a lot more depth why a lot of femmes and a lot of people and a lot of queer people kind of shy away from cis men and straight men in particular. Not that they're totally against it, but it's kind of like you have to be presenting some standout characteristics.
Yeah,
or stats in order to in order to sort of like break through.
Yeah, on dating apps now, I mean, first of all, there's definitely a revolution happening because I'm seeing more queer and bisexual and pansexual men on dating apps than I've ever seen before. So it's at the point now where, like, if you identify as straight on a dating app, your profile better be A++ for me to even consider it. Because mostly, I really just want to date queer men now. I'm really not interested in straight men.
Right. And the more that I hear this from folks, the more I understand it as I explore these things for myself, why they feel that way. And the things that they just categorically don't have to worry about when dating queer men.
What have you noticed in talking to cis men on dating apps?
Yeah, no, not maybe one or two. No interaction really stands out, so I don't feel like I have enough to really weigh in on that. I do know that when I see like normie couples on there, it kind of like gives me the ick a little bit. You know what I mean?
He's fully crossed over to the other side, y'all.
Well, just in the sense of, and no shade to people who are like looking for a third or looking for a and for people.
Yeah, no shade. Hey, we support
100%.
I mean, just don't be a dick about it.
Right. And so yeah, things like that.
Speaking of unicorn hunting, when are you gonna dive into the unicorn world? Because I think you would have a blast.
I think so too. Yeah, I think it's just creating an experience, or just I think having a few experiences that kind of set the stage for that. Yeah.
Or maybe your boyfriend and their partner.
Potentially, yeah. We are, so how cute and polyamorous and ostentatious and gay is this? That
Tell me.
that this person I'm seeing, we're both going, we mutually know the same person who's getting married. They're partnered with this person. So
I know who this is.
Yeah.
He'll be at the 4G as well.
And so we're going to this person's wedding, whom my boyfriend is partnered with, and they're going with me and their husband. So they're going to be hinging at another partner's wedding.
So gay and poly.
Yeah.
That is so pumpkiny. I wish I was gonna be there.
No, I think it's great. And so maybe things like that. We've talked about going to, even though they're not great, like the sex clubs here.
Oh God, Okay, moving on. Do you have other partners? Are you dating other people?
No, I mean, there's been people that I've been chatting with here and there, but I'm pretty much at capacity. I don't know that I would have room for another partner or...
Cool.
Yeah. I think we could do an entire episode just on this whole topic of things that I've realized about my own, queer or otherwise identity over the course of my adult life, and how if you're listening to this and you're feeling like you are behind the curve and maybe you're a little bit younger in your 20s and 30s, I'm here to tell you that in my mid 40s, I am just waking up to a lot of this shit, and it's still awesome.
Hell yeah.
And it's still fucking great.
That happened with Dr. M's dad too.
Right.
Yeah, he realized like he's actually prefers men sexually.
Yeah, and so I realized that there's a lot I could discover about what my parameters actually are. And I don't look at it like, oh, I'm in my mid 40s now, I'm old, I missed the boat. It's like, fuck all that. Like, you know how many, I mean, granted, the algorithm knows me, but you know how many articles I come across where it's like, ooh, Gen X women are having the best sex of their entire life right now. Why is that? Because they've gotten out of their long-term relationships
with a shitty cis man.
With a shitty cis man at this point, and now they're kind of opening up and, likely having some very different experiences and having more aligned sex. And so that generation in particular, which I'm an Xennial, not a Gen X person, but at the same time, it just kind of goes to show you that there's plenty of time left to have all the fun. Period.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be coming back with Intrusive Thoughts and our final segment, Dear Daylovers, where we will be answering a polyamorous advice question from one of you listeners. Okay, welcome back to the Remodeled Love podcast. It is now time for Intrusive Thoughts, which is where we share random existential thoughts that have been plaguing us lately. What is yours?
So my existential thought for this episode is the AI version. Mm-hmm. And I read this article recently that kind of gave me a sort of like chilling feel about the whole thing, beyond sort of like the loss of jobs and sort of, to say nothing of the existential threat. But one of the things that made me like extra, like, I suppose either like sad or fearful for humans was this writer who said, what if AI isn't going to completely reshape society, but it will be just useful enough that it will hang around and people will over time sort of become just kind of complacent and content, and just sort of like, kind of like an idiocracy, where it will just sort of become folded into the everyday life, where, okay, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, right? He thinks it's going to revolutionize like work and human
If only
existence.
the capitalists would let it.
Right, if only the capitalists would let it, right? Giving us universal basic income or something like that, which I totally would support. What if it doesn't do that? It just allows it just reaffirms sort of the worst of us, of our instincts as humans, and for instance, like people using it for really dumb things.
Yeah.
And just sort of this kind of lazy, unremarkable malaise.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking yesterday, like, oh my God, with being such a procrastinator that I was, like, if I had had ChatGPT, I might be really dumb. Um, because I would have been able to use that to like do all of my last minute assignments that I procrastinated on. Whereas, we didn't have any of that when I was in middle school and high school. And so I would procrastinate, but then I would have to really strengthen my intellect and my improv abilities to be able to churn out a paper at the last minute that, got a good grade. And so I'm not saying that that was a good way to go about things. I'm just saying I for sure would have used ChatGPT and I wouldn't have had to strengthen that muscle. And so, I mean, there's already studies and there's some conflict about whether or not these studies were done the right way. I don't know any of that shit, but it makes sense to me that people would get dumber.
Well, and yes, that, but also like not even like using it to like crank out a paper or something formal or professional, just like writing an email to your family. This person I'm seeing shared a story about that, and how kind of just like sort of like ridiculous and sad that that was. Like you couldn't even like think to yourself to like, because clearly like the email had been written and it was an email chain about what to do with family resources, and it just, even in examples like that, like we can't even like generate the thoughts or the sentiment on our own to just like communicate in these really basic ways.
Wow.
And just so like that's what it will become, like that's sort of like it's not it's only going to kind of like reaffirm the worst.
Yeah, it's so hard because as somebody with ADHD, like I will really, really, really be resisting something like sending a simple email to my family and I can't get myself to do it. And then I will use, AI to be like, "Oh, I really need to write this letter to my family and I can't get it, but here's what I need it to say." And then it will generate it. And I'm like, wow, that pushed me through the disability part of ADHD. Then I, being a creative, look at it and I'm like, ew, this sounds like ChatGPT. So now I'm going to go in and edit it and make it my own. And it's like I was able to use the device to help me through my disability, but I still went through and made sure that it had my spirit in it so that the person receiving it wasn't experiencing the like, ew, is this ChatGPT?
Right,
You know?
yeah. So that's my existential thought, that AI is not going to put us all out of jobs, nor will it end humanity. It will just make us dumber and will leave us less equipped to actually like do human interaction and do life.
Wow, what an interesting like proposal. I can totally see that happening. What an like interesting plot twist for humanity too. Ugh, I long to be in the Star Trek Earth 400 years from now where they have just utilized technology to free everyone. Ugh, my dream. So my intrusive thought, so as I've been on this autoimmune hormonal, likely also perimenopausal healing journey, I come across a lot of research, which is like all of the things that can throw your system out of whack. So, of course, that's diet, right? So, like dairy and gluten, sure. But then you dig a little further and it's like, well, also it's just shit made in America, which is just not quality. And then people go to Europe or wherever and suddenly their health gets better because the quality of the food there is better. So then it's like, okay, it's also the quality of the food. Okay, but then it's also shit in your home, microplastics, the mold, like is there a tiny bit of mold? They're also seeing now, and this isn't supposed to be like QAnon 5G conspiracy adjacent, but there's research coming out about like the Wi-Fi in your home or your phone being near you when you sleep affecting like your brain patterns. and the quality of sleep that you're getting, and the fact that our food is really deficient in minerals. And so I'm like, as I'm like on this journey, I'm like, is it even possible? Is it even possible for me to get better? It's actually horrifying. Because, okay, yay, I cut out dairy and gluten, but there's still the fact that the quality of food that we're able to buy on our income is not organic. And the meat that we're eating is not from, it's probably largely factory farmed and da 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 da. And so it's just like, are we so fucked in America that like you can't even get healthy? Anyway, because I was reading a list of what's called endocrine disruptors. And there are all kinds of things that can be endocrine disruptors. And I was looking at my ability to get them all out of my life. And I was like, that's not possible. That made me sad.
Yeah, there are so many things. There are so many sort of negative and harmful influences that are just sort of like baked into the everyday fabric of life.
Yeah, and so I think for me, I'm a very all or nothing autistic Sagittarius. And so I'm trying to remember, okay, Jess, you might not be able to get every endocrine disruptor out of your life, but you can at least feel a little better if you do as many as you can. Okay, now for our last segment, Dear Daylovers. This is an advice column, and if you want to write into the show and possibly have your question answered on the podcast sometime in the next century at the rate that we're doing shows, you can head to remodeledlove.com and click on Dear Daylovers. It will also be a link in the bio, and you can submit your question there. It says, Hi, Daylovers. First, thank you for being so real and nuanced in your conversations. You've helped me feel less like a weirdo and more like a human who's just learning to love in a different way. Yay, that's so our brand and what we're here to do. Here's my dilemma. I've been polyamorous for a few years, and while I've worked through a lot of jealousy and communication struggles, I'm now bumping up against something that feels harder to talk about. One of my partners and I have very different capacities for emotional labor and relationships. I tend to be the connector. I check in, remember dates, smooth conflicts, and make sure everyone else feels seen. My partner, on the other hand, is deeply loving, but admits they don't have the bandwidth or skill set to track dynamics across the polycule the way I do. Woo! This has created a weird imbalance where I feel like I'm managing not just my relationship with them, but also some of their other relationship spillovers, like when they forget to set boundaries or when another partner feels neglected. I don't want to become the default polyam secretary or mom, but I also don't want to disengage and let things collapse. So my question is, how do you tell when stepping in to support your partner is a loving communal act versus when it's crossing into codependency or enabling? This is so weird. I just posted about this. How old is this? This is from months ago. I literally this is giving me chills. I just posted about this conundrum. How do you redistribute emotional labor in a polycule without just letting everything catch fire? Thanks for any wisdom and probably laughs you can offer on this one. So, first of all, full body chills because I don't know what the planets are up to or why I'm just now reading this, but I just posted 2 days ago what I called the $10 million question is, where is the line between holding space for someone to change or accepting them as they are and enabling behavior? Mm-hmm. Where's that line? I have many things to say about this. One is, weirdly enough, this is a topic that has come up among polyamorous content creators. One of my colleagues specifically is getting ready to do a panel or a workshop, I'm not sure, or a educational series about how they have noticed that femmes tend to take on the role of the connector or the one who does emotional labor in polycules. It's like they carry the heavier load of the emotional labor, and that tracks with the rest of our culture where women and femmes are often doing more emotional labor in all of their relationships, professional, personal, romantic, otherwise. And so I think, actually, it doesn't say the gender of this person. I am assuming that. But that is a topic that has come up. So if you are a femme or a woman, or you're listening to this right now and you're thinking, wait, that's definitely an experience I'm having, stay tuned because one of my colleagues is actually working on a whole series about that phenomenon. Conundrum? I don't know what word I'm looking for there. And this is something I've been talking about lately too, because I think of it as like, when we love somebody and when we show up in a polycule, we want to bring our gifts with us. So, like, my gifts are emotional intelligence. And I am willing to do more emotional labor than somebody else because, like, I'm not going to mow the lawn. I don't want to mow the lawn. So, like, you and Dr. M take on the mowing of the lawn, and you don't even ask me to do it. And so, that's an example of a piece of labor that you guys are willing to do that I don't want to do and don't have the strength currently to do. And so, to me, initiating difficult conversations, catching when something's off, recognizing that we need to have a come to Jesus moment and carrying that is like my bringing what I bring, and yet so quickly it can become imbalanced, inequitable, dysfunctional. I just learned the term over functioning and under functioning. And so in a lot of relationships, one partner, or in a lot of dynamics, one person can be over functioning because another person is under functioning. And so, like, where is the balance between, hey, actually, you need to learn to carry more of this in order to not be an under functioning person? And where is, well, the beauty of polyamory is the distribution of labor. Where's that line?
That's tough. It's such a situational, obviously, answer for when something feels aligned and when it's breeding perhaps resentment. And so I would start there, I suppose, when you're realizing, when you're having that moment of, oh, this is something that I could do, or an action that I could take to help the polycule. What feeling is alongside that? Is it sort of like this proactive, like, I want to help and I'm happy to do this even though others aren't bringing that same kind of initiative? Or is this sort of breeding resentment that I have to do this? And I suppose that would be kind of the first indicator. Are you initially like happy to do the thing that is contributing to the imbalance, or are you feeling resentful, or maybe just like not seen, not appreciated, like those sorts of things?
Yeah, and so I mean they narrowed down their question. My question is, how do you tell when stepping in to support your partner is a loving communal act versus when is it crossing into codependency or enabling? And that is a question that I don't feel like I have an answer to, as I am literally asking myself this with some interesting relationship stuff I'm navigating in some of my other relationships, of like, where is the line between care and enabling? So I think one thing that pops into my mind is the fact that you're writing in to us, writing in for advice means that you are having negative feelings about it, which means some of that labor does need to be distributed. And it might mean that you have to do a little bit more. It's kind of like with the fair play cards, when like people in a, nested parenting relationship have to come to the table and look at all of the labor, emotional and literal, domestic labor required to run a family. And one person had to do more labor to initiate the fact that, hey, we need to read this book and we need to distribute those cards. And that sucks. But then once you do that work, you have created a system that is more equitable. And then maybe you can do grief work or release work around the fact that you even had to do that in the first place. But at least now the system is there.
Yeah, and to that point of the system, my what I'm wondering, which is not mentioned in the email, is does your partner or partners within this polycule, do they sort of make up for that imbalance in other areas? Because as we know, right, relationships are not always, or should be, a 50-50, kind of putting in an equal amount of energy. But it can't always be one person putting in 60 and the other person always putting in 40, because sometimes it goes the other way, right?
Right.
And so I'm wondering, are there other areas that your partners are stepping up where maybe you're not as bringing as much, and therein we find the balance? And so if your answer to that question is no, then I'm likely to think that you are experiencing some negative thoughts, and this does need to be addressed in a conversation, or,
Yeah.
as you said, a kind of like fair play, systematic approach.
Yeah, we need to create a system that solves the imbalance. And sometimes it's like, I just need to see you trying. I don't even need the labor to be evenly distributed tomorrow. I just need to be recognized in my experience and validated in the experience I'm having. Because if I'm feeling this way and then you tell me that that's not what's happening, well, now we have a different problem. So it's like sometimes I just need to be validated, and that I'm feeling this way, and then I need to see like an inch move this way. I don't need the whole field to be taken, but just like an inch is sometimes like all we need. And I would also search over functioning and under functioning in relationships. It was one of my colleagues, Lovers. She's a therapist, love her very much, who reached out to me to tell me about this concept of over functioning and under functioning in relationships, and the intersections of disability and chronic illness and things like that, that we have to be factored in as well. Mental health, burnout, things like that. There's a lot of shit that is not our fault. It's a systemic issue. If you have a partner in severe burnout, maybe they literally can't initiate these difficult conversations. But maybe they're not in severe burnout. They're literally just stoned all the time and don't care. Those are different things. And either way, even if someone is in burnout or struggling with mental health, you still get to have the feelings that you're feeling. And so, yeah, I would search over functioning and under functioning, because reading about that online kind of blew my mind a little bit that was even a concept.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you so much for writing in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your patience with us. And I think I need to give myself a little bit more grace, because like we literally had a whole ass baby and then tried to maintain life the way that it was. And so I think it makes sense that it's taken 4 years to find hopefully what will be restability with the podcast. I didn't even bring up that nuclear fusion is a huge reason why the Remodeled Love podcast has kind of fallen to the back burner. But amazing things are happening with Nuclear Fusion Network. We have a really, really big announcement coming up at the beginning of October, so stick around for that. It's growing very slowly. It is the most humbling process of my life, but we are pivoting our focus in a way that I think is going to be really interesting and game-changing. We've also raised over $117,000 in non-VC capital.
Hell yeah.
So that's fucking dope. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for the grace, giving grace to myself. And I think you mentioned we could do a whole episode on your queer journey. I think that will be our next Patreon only episode.
Hell yeah, that sounds great.
All right. Goodbye, lovers.
Goodbye.